Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to the North Dade Justice Center Law Day. I'm Judge Linda Singer-Stein, and together with Judge Miriam Lear, we'd like to introduce you to our co-chairs, Judge Natalie Moore, Judge Raul Cuervo, Judge Ayanna Harris, and Judge Chaka Ihekwaba, who will join us a little bit later.
Good afternoon. Once again, we are here today to officially celebrate our nation's commitment to the rule of law. Our founding fathers created the court system to uphold the Constitution and provide balance to our government. That is why Congress in 1961 officially designated May 1st as Law Day. The theme this year is advancing the rule of law now. During these challenging times, we recognize that our format is different, but nonetheless, we have a very special event for you today. We are very honored to have with us as our featured speaker, Justice John Coryell. We also welcome our Chief Judge Bertia Soto, along with our Chief Judge-elect, Nushin Saifi. We have many distinguished judges and dignitaries joining us, and we will try to recognize you all in just a few minutes. We have a list of those that have previously sent in their RSVPs. If you have not, we welcome you to please put your name and title in the chat box, and you will be recognized with the rest of the dignitaries that are present. Also, we are very proud to being live streamed on the 11th Judicial Circuit YouTube channel.
If you'd like CLE credit, please email my administrative judicial assistant, Maria Luisa Matos, and she'll send you a CLE form. Maria's putting her email in the chat box now. Please note that everyone will be muted during the program except for our speakers, so please put your questions for Justice Coryell in the chat box. Also, we'll be switching to speaker mode a few times during the program, so if you'd like to see everyone, you can switch your computer to gallery view. We want to acknowledge the tremendous efforts of the Aventura Marketing Council Chamber of Commerce President Elaine Adler and Michael Stern, our videographer extraordinaire. Our court system could not have a better friend than you. We're so thankful for Eunice Sigler, the Director and Liaison of Public Relations, for all of your hard work in coordinating our event, along with our spectacular IT department sites, Juan Antonio Gonzalez, Lohan Fajardo, and Walner Ramirez. We also have with us our partners from the clerk's office, Clerk of Court Harvey Rubin, Maria Tamayo, Mark Martinez, Keith Noble, Paul Collado, Sandra Hernandez, Ina Fredericks, and Eileen Valdez. Special thanks to our building manager at the North Dade Justice Center, Robin, and also Humberto. In addition, we're very grateful to have a wonderful sponsor in Professional Bank. And they are represented here today by Janet Henfield Green. Finally, I must acknowledge my fabulous judicial assistant, Maria Luisa, who has once again been the right hand of this event. Thank you, Maria. At this time, we're going to start off our program with the North Dade bailiffs and the administrative bailiff, Brian Jackson, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by God Bless America, sung by young star Emily Taylor Kaufman. And for the invocation, we are honored to have our own Aventura Mayor, Enid Weissman. Brian, please begin.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Will everyone place your right hand over your heart? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, through the ocean wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Thank you.
Mayor Weissman.
Okay, we have just gone through an incredible year and a half that has touched deeply every single one of us. And these are kind of the words that came to mind. To everything, there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break up and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to keep silent and a time to speak. A time for love and a time for hate. A time for war and a time for peace. And I pray for all of us that we are embarking upon a new time of peace and love to make up for the year and a half that we have just gone through. I bless and wish all of you blessings today and always, and may you enjoy the time ahead. Amen.
Thank you, Mayor Weissman, for your thoughtful and moving words. And thank you to our bailiffs and Emily Taylor Kaufman for her beautiful singing. For the past 8 years, we've been blessed to have Judge Bertia Soto as our chief judge. And as is our tradition, Judge Soto, will you please give us your remarks?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. And it's such a great day. So happy that we're having this event. We missed it last year. I have always looked forward to it, even before I was a chief, because my two great colleagues and friends, Judge Lair and Judge Singerstein, put on the best show. Don't tell Victoria Ferrer and Hialeah, for Law Day in Miami-Dade. Always, always, the Aventura Marketing Center Commission, all of the different leaders from North Dade are incredibly supportive. It is a community that backs what we call the rule of law, which is our theme, and they're always there to support the court system for the right reasons. And it has been an honor for the last 8.5 years to serve as your chief judge. Next year, though I'm not the chief judge, if Nushin lets me, I'm going to come to Law Day again, because it's so important. It means so much. What you do for your community and your students is beyond words. I want to thank Justice Coryell for always coming to our Miami-Dade events. He's brand new, but I got to tell you, he's got an old soul already, and I can already tell he's part of the family. So thank you again for this beautiful Law Day, for all you've done for the circuit. I truly appreciate the North Dade judges and their leaders. Thank you very much.
Dear Judge Soto, and yes, you've attended every Law Day event. We can't thank you enough for your leadership and support. You're very dear to us, and I too, and we too consider you a dear friend. So thank you for your warm words. We are so pleased to have with us our Chief Judge-elect, Nushin Safety, who will begin leading us July 1st. Thank you for being with us, Judge Safety. And we know that your leadership will prove to be very successful, and we look forward to welcoming you to our courthouse next year in person for our Law Day. Judge Safety.
Thank you so much, Judge Lair. I want to say a big congratulations to Judge Singerstein and Judge Lair as the administrative judge and associate administrative judge. And the sad news for me that as you will continue to be my good friends and you will continue to be my wonderful colleagues, but you've done an incredible job in North Dade. And I know that I, among many others, are going to be sad to see you step down from these incredible roles, but we still know that you will forever be the queens of North Dade. I can tell you also just another, all the new judges that come through that begin in North Dade forever leave their hearts in North Dade. And I think that's in huge part to Judge Singerstein and Judge Lair. So I'm sure that the new judges are going to continue that, but there's always going to be a warmth in North Dade that I think is very, very special. And that I've seen in so many of the judges that have come through there. I want to congratulate you on surviving the pandemic and doing such a good job keeping the courthouse going, and to all the new judges at North Dade, how wonderful that you all came in and hit the ground running. I know some of you have never been judges in a non-pandemic time, and I want to congratulate you on keeping things going. That's obviously integral to the rule of law that I know Justice Coryell is going to speak about more in a few minutes. I also just want to say a big giant thank you to my friend and my colleague and my sometimes mother and always big sister, Bertie Soto. Following in her footsteps is impossible. I've been trying to do it for the entire 12 years that I've been on the bench. I followed her as an associate administrative judge, and I followed her as administrative judge, and now I have to follow her as chief. But I'm really blessed to still have her in my life as a judge. I'm lucky she's going to still be a judge and be one of my colleagues. And I joke that I'm going to be hiding her in the room next door so that she can be there for me. But it's really an honor to be here. I cannot wait to be there in person. As you all know, I'm from North Dade. I'm from Highland Lakes. So North Dade is my home. I've had traffic tickets with my children there, so I feel very much at home in the North Dade Justice Center. And I just want to congratulate all of you, all the judges, and everyone who's partaking in this wonderful event.
Thank you so much, Judge Safety. And now we would like to recognize our elected and appointed officials that are here in attendance today. Of course, we have our special featured guest, Florida Supreme Court Justice John Coryell. We also have in attendance Miami-Dade County Commissioner Sally Heyman, Aventura Mayor Enid Weissman, Chief Judge of the 11th Judicial Circuit, Bertia Soto, Chief Judge-elect of the 11th Judicial Circuit, Nushin Safety, Miami-Dade County Clerk of Courts, Harvey Rubin, 11th Judicial Circuit Court Trial Court Administrator, Sandy Lonergan. We also have a host of judges in attendance. Former 11th Judicial Circuit County and Circuit Court Judge, and now 3rd District Court of Appeal Judge, Alexander Boker. Judge Robin Faber, Administrative Judge of County Criminal Court. Judge Gordon Murray, Incoming County Court Administrative Judge. Judge Scott Janowitz, Incoming County Court Associate Administrative Judge. Judge Lodi Jean, Judge Lisa Walsh, Judge Jason Demetris, Judge Linda Melendez, Judge Andrea Wolfson, Judge Stephanie Silver, Judge Diana Biscayne, Judge Michelle Delancey, Judge Robert Watson, Judge William Thomas, Judge Elijah Levitt, Judge Elizabeth Espinosa, Judge Julie Harris Nelson, Judge Luis Perez Medina, Judge Jacqueline Woodward, Judge Christine Bandon, Judge Carmen Carbaga, Judge Michelle Gonzalez Paulson, Judge Vivian Del Rio, Judge Carlos Gamez, Judge Maisha Darrow, Judge Carlos Guzman, Senior Judge Karen Canner Schwartz, Senior Judge Phyllis Cote, Chief Stephen Barrera of the Opelika City Police Department, Shannon Campbell, Miami Gardens City Council, Attorney Vanessa Joseph, the North Miami City Clerk, We'd like to thank all of our special guests and colleagues that are in attendance today. And thanks to this Zoom platform, we have an overwhelmingly large turnout today. And we are so grateful to have you with us. And we really look forward to hopefully hosting you all in person next year. Thank you.
We'd like to thank Janet Henfield Green of Professional Bank, our sponsor for today's Law Day event. We'd also like to thank our participating bar associations, the Caribbean Bar Association, Tricia Gay Cottrell, President, Colombian American Bar Association, Alexander Leon, President, Cuban American Bar Association, Dax Bello, President, Florida Association of Women Lawyers, Dade County Chapter, Ardith Bronson, President, Florida Supreme Court Historical Society, Jonathan Faust Clausen, President, the Gwen S. Cherry Black Women Lawyers Association, Sheena Alta Benjamin Wise, President, Haitian Lawyers Association, Vladimir St. Louis, President, National Black Prosecutors Association, TJ Mathis, President, North Dade Bar Association, Rick Chisholm, President, South Broward Bar Association, Ben Pratano, President, and Wilkie D. Ferguson Jr. Bar Association, Travis Randolph, President. As a working mother with 2 young boys, I'm so grateful for the supportive environment our court system provides. We'd like to share with you all a video about the new Mamava lactation pod in the North Dade Justice Center. Thanks to Miami-Dade Commissioner Sally Heyman for sponsoring the pod, to our court administration, Elaine Adler, Robin, and Humberto for helping us make this important project happen.
Hi, I'm Chief Judge Bertie Soto of the 11th Judicial Circuit. I'm here with Commissioner Sally Heyman, our big supporter of all that is judicial. And we want to thank her for this incredible lactation pod that we have here for mothers who will be coming in as litigants or as lawyers who will need to have time and space to either pump or breastfeed their children. This is an important day, and like North Dade, always championing the people they serve. We're very happy about this moment.
Thank you. Hi, and I'm County Commissioner Sally Heyman, happy to be here with my Chief Judge, Bertie Soto. This is a special day for the North Dade Justice Center, always available for those who seek justice and deliver it to make it accessible to everybody. Mothers, young mothers breastfeeding are a growing population in our workforce. So whether you're seeking justice or delivering it here at the North Dade Justice Center, this lactation pod will now provide not only privacy, but the ability to take care of business personally and professionally with our legal jurists and the community. Thank you on behalf of everybody seeking justice, and I wish you all a great annual Law Day.
Our Law Day at the North Dade Justice Center this year is extra special due to the efforts of our Chief Judge Bertia Soto and Miami-Dade Commissioner Sally Heyman. We now have a Mamava top-tier lactation pod on the second floor of the courthouse. This is a beautiful addition that will provide mothers with babies who visit the courthouse with a dignified and private space.
Commissioner Heyman has been a longtime friend to the justice system and a true believer in access to the courts. The community is grateful and continues to be so well served by Commissioner Heyman. We are very proud of the North Dade Justice Center and are pleased to add this lactation pod to the services we have provided throughout the years. Thank you so very much, Commissioner Heyman, for all that you do.
I'm so proud to be part of the North Dade Justice Center Law Day, but additionally to make a new contribution, the lactation pod here in the North Dade Justice Center. Women, mothers, are the fastest growing members of our workforce. Come to the North Dade Justice Center, be a part of the ever-growing amenities here, whether you are someone seeking justice or, like these fine jurists, delivering justice.
I do want to take a moment to acknowledge Maria Harris, the wonderful Maria Harris from the Administrative Office of the Courts. We thank Commissioner Heyman. She's always been one of our biggest supporters. Thank you for all that you do, including sponsoring the Mama Vapad and for your donation of this art installation at the North Dade Justice Center. This fabulous flamingo is Barquette, named in honor of Judge Rosemary Barquette. Everyone, please help me in welcoming Miami-Dade County Commissioner Sally Heyman.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sally Heyman. I'm masked up in recognition and honor of my favorite jurist, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who championed equality for women having equal access and opportunity under the law and practicing law. I join you today virtually as part of Law Day 2021 and acknowledge our great North Dade judges, our participants, the bar associations, and all the sponsors. Thank you for including me annually once again. These are truly trying times for all of us. COVID-19 since March 2020 has society continuously adjusting under the new normal, and we are still evolving in reaction mode. As a lawmaker and as an attorney, the one constant in these challenging times, COVID or not, that brings comfort is the ability we have to make laws, the ability to challenge these laws for their constitutionality, and most especially the constantly available opportunity to pursue justice. Unflappable is our commitment to the rule of law and our ability to find ways to allow people, all people, to access our justice system. Kudos to Justice Bertie Soto and all the judges who were open for business to mete out justice during these trying times. Our justice system allows the legal process to proceed even during these challenging times, but always, always move forward. To all the student essay writers, thank you for your interest, and an extra congratulations to the selected winners. Have a great Law Day 2021.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Heyman, or Sally, as you always say. Call me Sally. So I am Judge Cuervo, a criminal county judge up here in the North Dade Justice Center for the last 3 years. It has become a tradition in the Law Day program, as Commissioner Heyman mentioned, to include the North Dade Bar Association Student Essay Contest. This year's National Law Day theme, Advancing the Rule of Law Now, was incorporated into their essay question, which was, under the new Florida Anti-Riot Act law, how would peaceful protesters be distinguished from rioters? And we're all very proud to congratulate the winners. First place, Raquel Weaver, 7th grade, Carroll City Middle School. Second place, Veronica Zephyrin, 8th grade, John F. Kennedy Middle School. Third place, Jadina Lewis, 8th grade, Highland Oaks Middle School. And honorable mentions, Luke Rianda, 8th grade, Doctors Charter School, Miami Shores. Adam Ainesman, 7th grade, Aventura Waterways K through 8 Center. Andrew Smith, 8th grade, Carroll City Middle School. And Giacomo Mercado, 7th grade, Norman S. Edelcup, K through 8 Center. A very special thank you to the board of the North Dade Bar Association for keeping this essay contest alive and strong for many years. Richard Cheesever, president. Esther Blinn, vice president, Law Day. And Russell Lizega, secretary. And also congratulations to all the students who participated, and to the winners and to the honorable mentions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge Cuervo. It is my honor and privilege to introduce Justice John Coryell. the 90th Justice of the Florida Supreme Court. Justice Coryell was born and raised in Miami to Cuban immigrant parents who immigrated from Cuba in the 1960s. His father was one of the unaccompanied children who was brought to Miami as part of the Pedro Pan operation. Justice Coryell received his undergraduate degree from Harvard College, where he graduated magna cum laude, followed by his JD degree from Harvard Law School in 2003. After clerking for the Honorable Judge John D. Bates of the United States District Court for the District Court of Columbia, the justice worked for a civil law firm in New York City. Soon thereafter, Justice Coryell worked as a federal prosecutor for the Southern District of Florida. He prosecuted hundreds of federal offenses, including healthcare fraud, money laundering, human trafficking crimes. In 2013, Justice Coryell joined the international law firm of Cobry and Kim, and in 2020, he was appointed to the Supreme Court of Florida. On a personal note, Justice Coryell, I have admired you, and we are so blessed to have you as a jurist in our state. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Judge Lair. It is I who am blessed to be here with you today to celebrate and recognize Law Day. As a couple of the panelists have noted, I spend a lot of time in North Dade. My wife grew up there and my wife's family resides in North Dade. And so I know how hard it is to get a table at Moe's. And so I can tell you that there is a special way to get into Moe's, and that is just go when Mimi Lair is there. And they just roll out this red carpet, and it's, locks starts falling from the ceilings, and they bring you platters of bagels because she is absolutely the most important person at Moe's. It's a delight to go to North Dade and be with her whenever I can be. I want to thank all of the many judges who are taking time away from the public's work to recognize the rule of law today in this event. And so many elected officials who are joining us today, who play an absolutely essential role in legislating and making good policy for our people. And I acknowledge all of you and thank you for your service. I want to also pause and recognize the leaders of the voluntary bar associations who've joined us today. One special privilege of being a justice of our court is working with the Florida bar on attorney discipline matters. Some of the hardest cases we have involve holding ourselves as judges and holding attorneys who have taken an oath to uphold the rule of law to discipline. And the voluntary bar associations play an absolutely indispensable role in promoting appropriate legal conduct and promoting the rule of law in our civil society. And they do it often in a very thankless environment where it takes time away from their practices, it takes time away from their families, and nobody really recognizes it, but it is a tremendous help to those of us who are on the court and who ride on the efforts that they do to promote the rule of law. It is a very tough thing to speak to such an august and distinguished group about the rule of law. And that is because the rule of law is the work of many hands. It is the work of all of us. I think what I'd like to do today, rather than make grand pronouncements about what the rule of law means or what at least it means to me, is instead to spend a little bit of time with the life of someone who I believe lived the rule of law. And that is a former justice of our court and a product of our community, Justice Gerald Cogan, who passed away on March 5th of this year at the age of 87. Justice Cogan was our 73rd justice. One of the coolest things about being on this court is the long line of jurists who've served on it since statehood in 1845. I'm the 90th justice. And it's very humbling to walk into the Supreme Court in Tallahassee and to pass by the portraits of everyone who's served on the court. And one of the things that I noticed early was that people seemed to pause longest before the portrait of the justices who let us down. And Justice Kogan joined our court at a time when we didn't have the greatest reputation for upholding the rule of law. And by the sheer force of his commitment to transparency and equality before the law, did a lot to advance our court's role in administering justice in the state. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time just sort of walking through his life with you, because it's an amazing life and a life very well lived. I give a lot of credit. One of the greatest things about the Florida Supreme Court is we have this tremendous library. And in fact, one of the little known perks of being a Florida Supreme Court justice is apparently you get to leave a bunch of your papers with them when you're dead. And so my mother took advantage of this and was like, oh, great, I have a bunch of high school trophies and plaques that I'm just going to ship up to Tallahassee and get them out of your room so that now I can have a guest room. I have those in a box. I haven't quite unloaded them on the poor folks in the library's office. But it is true, when you walk around the basement of the Florida Supreme Court, there's just memorabilia, law degrees, certificates, crazy stuff from the 19th century, and stuff that's more recent, like this excellent book about the life of Gerald Kogan that was written by his friend Seth Bromson. And it's a wonderful book. I recommend it to you. It's called From Brooklyn to Biscayne Bay and on to Tallahassee. I'll be borrowing from it in my remarks to you today, but it's a great sort of encomium to this great man. Justice Kogan was born on May 23rd, 1933 in Brooklyn. Like so many people, he was the son of immigrants like me. And like my parents, his came to the United States to flee persecution, in his case from Russia. As a child, the future Chief Justice was described as precocious and headstrong. At one point in school, when a teacher tried to correct his handwriting and said it was abysmal, he said he wouldn't need to have good handwriting anyway because he was going to have an excellent secretary. When he was 14, his family moved to Miami Beach, and that was a very difficult shift for him because he was very much a son of Brooklyn. But he discovered a few things in Miami that made him very happy. One was Biscayne Bay, which became a lifelong love for him. And the other was debate. He was a high school debater at Miami Beach Senior High. Some people know that I actually met my wife through high school debate. So the fact that he is a high school debater is also an important connection that I have with Justice Kogan. And it turns out with a lot of judges and justices, if there are any young people listening, high school debate, do it. It's really important. And it teaches you how to do a lot of what we do and figuring out what the rule of law really means. And that is understanding your opponent's argument as well as yours, if not better. And that really is a skill that I think Justice Kogan appreciated and came to understand as a young debater in Miami Beach. He attended the University of Miami for both his undergraduate and law school studies, and he graduated with honors both times. And while at the University of Miami, Justice Kogan found something else or someone else that was a tremendous reason to not be in Brooklyn, and that was his beautiful wife of 61 years, Irene Vulgan. They had an amazing journey together, and the pictures in this book of them throughout their lives are really meaningful to me because it shows me that as a man with a family and a man with a full life outside of the work of justice, he was able to nonetheless have a singular focus on work and be enriched. It didn't have to come at the cost of his family life. It didn't have to come at the cost of his happiness as a whole person to give his life to the rule of law. At the very dark time in our history when Justice Kogan was a college debater in the 1950s, obviously Florida was still, like much of the United States, segregated. And he had a very meaningful experience when, as a college debater, he went to Bethune-Cookman College for a debate tournament. It was virtually unheard of for the University of Miami to go to a historically Black college for a debate tournament. And he said it, quote, truly opened his eyes to the vileness of bigotry and the stupidity of segregation. After graduating from the University of Miami, Justice Kogan served his country in the U.S. Army Intelligence Corps for 2 years. He left active duty in 1957 and began to practice in Miami. And he devoted the majority of his career to public service, first as a prosecutor in the Dade County State Attorney's Office, and then as special counsel to Florida's Legislative Select Committee on Organized Crime and Law Enforcement. He became a judge in 1980 and was appointed to Florida's 11th Judicial Circuit, like so many distinguished judges here. And he was selected to be our 73rd justice in 1987. His time on the court, as I said earlier, came after a very dark season in the 1970s. There's a very famous book about that period in our history called A Most Disorderly Court. And when I mentioned earlier that people often pause before some of those portraits in the portrait gallery, Justice McLean is one that they often stop in front of for a while and sort of meditate on, because usually the tour guide pauses and says, well, while he was a justice of the court, he eventually had to resign because of allegations of bribery, and he died a fugitive because he got involved in drug trafficking. And you sort of stop and shake your head. As daunting as it is to take this very difficult job under the best of circumstances, and I have been very humbled by this very difficult job, I can only imagine how difficult it was for Justice Kogan to undertake what he undertook at the time he did. But undertake it he did. And his commitment as a justice of the court was to greater transparency, greater equality, and greater access to justice. And his work on the court really stands as a very proud testimony to those things. I'll give you some examples of his commitment to those areas. He called it openness with dignity and transparency with rules. In the early 1990s, when the internet was a newfangled and underappreciated thing, especially by government bureaucracies, Justice Kogan, believing that Louis Brandeis was right and that sunshine was the greatest disinfectant, went to the trouble to make sure that our oral arguments were broadcast, including by negotiating very aggressively for satellite time for our public broadcasts, and for the creation of a robust website. Now, these days, that doesn't sound like a big deal because we all walk around with a supercomputer in our pocket. But in 1990, that was a very big deal. I recently told my law clerks, I think, that I didn't have my first email address until I was in college, and they looked at me like I had 4 heads. It was a very different time in 1990. And the fact that an institution like ours, a relatively compact court, would have all of the papers accessible online for free, and have our oral arguments online for free, was revolutionary. Many courts have followed suit since, but Florida remains a trailblazer, both in its accessibility, the accessibility of the arguments to the public. You can go online and hear what people had to say to us in every single oral argument since the 1990s. That's really remarkable. It's, for example, difficult to find that kind of information about our federal courts. And yet, because of Justice Kogan's commitment to transparency, that's all available. And I believe that is really important to the rule of law, because the rule of law is the work of all of us. And it means that citizens should be able to hear and see what a court bases its decisions upon, and ask tough questions of whether or not the court is doing its job. And that's possible because of people who, like Justice Kogan, committed themselves to transparency and openness. It's also true that for 2.5 years, Justice Kogan guided our court's Gender Bias Study Commission as its chair. And in 1990, our court issued a report that became a model for the study of gender bias in courts across the nation. And we're very proud to lead on that area and to be committed to equality before the law. He was elected our Chief Justice in 1997. He created a Fairness Commission to monitor and investigate all areas of bias in our court system, including racial bias, gender bias, and bias against the disabled and the elderly. That commission still exists today, and it's a standing committee of our Supreme Court, and it has furthered his lifelong mission for fairness for all people. Among other reforms that Justice Kogan championed were publishing our opinions online for free whenever they were released, supporting self-help and neighborhood justice centers, including the first such center in Tallahassee, as a platform for helping pro se litigants and those who could not afford lawyers, which remains a real challenge. Access to justice remains an area of focus for our entire judiciary. He also was the first justice of our court to hire a public relations officer. And in that respect, our court was a trailblazer. And with no small amount of thanks due to Justice Kogan, many state Supreme Courts have systems modeled on ours. Again, openness with dignity and transparency with rules. He received international praise for what was called his Access Initiative in the late 1990s. And that was, again, an effort to sort of make expanding use of the internet to make courts more transparent to the public. And I encourage everybody who's not a lawyer on this Zoom call to go to floridasupremecourt.org and have a look at how easy it is for you to queue up video of arguments in our cases, or to find the briefs in cases you find interesting. And indeed to receive a layperson's summary of the cases that we're about to argue in June. It's always available. And I think it's a real public service that I venture to say would not have happened the way it did without Justice Jerry Kogan. On a personal note, Justice Kogan was known to be a subtle man with a soft touch. He was a gentle and humble person. And he generally is remembered as someone who sought to lessen conflict. And I look back on that as a very remarkable and important legacy to be left with so many years after serving. It is a challenge indeed to find people who have anything really negative to say about Justice Kogan. And there's something to that. And I think I'll end on this note. One of the things that's true about the rule of law is that I think it's fair to say that it's a rule of humility. And by that, I mean that the rule of law requires litigants and judges to accept that they may not have it all figured out. And that people with whom we disagree may be right sometimes. And that there is space in our system for that disagreement and for the resolution of conflict. I don't know that I would have agreed with every opinion that Justice Kogan wrote. And I doubt that Justice Kogan would agree with everything I will write if I'm blessed with time on this court to write as much as he did. But I know that we would have been good colleagues. And I know that based on his remarkable life, that we would have shared the same commitment to the rule of law. And I'll leave you with a quote from one of his opinions with which I very much agree. And it's a quote from a case called Krischer v. McIver. And he said that, quote, "At a fundamental level, the role of the justices and judges of Florida is to guarantee and enforce the protection afforded by the basic rights of privacy and self-determination. This is at once a judge's greatest calling and heaviest burden. It is an obligation we shoulder by our oath of office, binding ourselves to enforce individual liberty, even in the face of public or official opposition. To shield the liberties of the individual from encroachment is uniquely the task of the courts. In that sense, we are obliged to give sanctuary against the overreaches of government. I commit myself to you and to the memory of those folks who, like Justice Kogan's parents and mine, came to this country to seek a place that had the rule of law, to do my very, very best every day, to live up to the example that he set, and to remember his example in discharging the duties that I'm honored to discharge. So I thank you all very much for your time. I thank you for your commitment to the rule of law, and I would be so very delighted to stay and answer some questions if anybody's interested in our work at the court. Thank you.
On behalf of everyone in attendance, I really want to thank Justice Coryell for those wonderful words of wisdom. I am sure I'm not speaking out of turn when I say he has given us all a lot of history and a lot to think about, and we are all going to be much better legal scholars for it. I know I most certainly will be. Thank you, Justice Coryell. In keeping with that thought, I'm reminding everyone once again that there will be one CLE credit for all attorneys that attended this Our Law Day event. I invite all the attorneys who are here today and wish to receive this credit to please email our Administrative Judicial Assistant, Maria Luisa Matos, and her email address should already be in the chat. If it isn't, I know she will put it in right now. And for those of you who would like to see everyone on your screen, you are now able to switch your view to gallery view. Before we move on, I would like to recognize Commissioner Billy Joel, our former Aventura Commissioner. Commissioner Joel, we thank you very much for being here with us. We are now going to move on to our next item, which is a question and answer session. And if you would like to ask a question, I know Ms. Sigler has already said it, but please write it in the chat box. However, I must let you all know that we already have some questions that were submitted in advance. So we will try and get to as many of your questions as we possibly can. At this time, I will hand over to Ms. Eunice Sigler to conduct this part of our program. Ms. Sigler.
Thank you, Judge. We have a question from Ms. Henfield Green of Professional Bank. This question was submitted in advance. The question is, what legal issues is the Florida Supreme Court considering that might affect businesses or the corporate world?
That's a very good question. So many is the short answer. The slightly longer answer is that at any given time, we are entertaining arguments about things as broad and wide as constitutional amendments, the standards applicable in civil discovery or in civil litigation, criminal legal issues, including Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment issues, Eighth Amendment issues in death penalty cases, a wide variety of subjects that in one way or another have wide-reaching social impacts, sometimes in not obvious ways, including on business. I would say that the cases that in the last year have probably been most direct in their impact on businesses in Florida have been our cases dealing with the summary judgment standard, which is now different than it was before and tracks more closely Rule 56 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. And there are many cases before us that touch insurance issues, insurance first-party claims and otherwise, and also claims about attorney fees and fee shifting provisions. There are, in short, so many different potential impacts to business that the only way to fully answer the question is to have a look at the website I suggested and to stay tuned.
Thank you, Justice. We have another question from our judge, Jason Demetris. What has surprised you the most regarding the work of the as a Florida Supreme Court justice or the work of the court?
It's a great question. I think what's surprised me the most, and what is really not as publicly reported as it ought to be, is the degree to which judges on a court like ours work together. I came thinking that it was going to be a fairly monastic job, that I was going to sort of be locked up with books, and that I would just be at a keyboard writing. In fact, when I joined the court, one of my former law partners said to me, "You realize this is going to be like taking a take-home exam every single day for no money." That ringing endorsement aside from the job, turns out he was mistaken. It is not like taking a take-home exam every day. It is instead very much a collaborative process. I talk to one of my colleagues every day, sometimes many of my colleagues every day. And I'm curious about where they are on different issues. I'm curious how they've dealt with them in the past. And I think the public, especially in the last few years, has been fed a prevailing media narrative about the way appellate court judges, Supreme Court justices do their work that, at least in my 1 year of experience on the court, really doesn't bear itself out to be true. It is very hard, for example, to predict how justice is going to feel about an issue just because of what governor appointed him or her to the court. And it really is a process that involves persuasion and reasoning and candor with each other, and not shouting or being disagreeable. We often disagree, but we always do it in a way that isn't disagreeable. And that's been a very pleasant and gratifying surprise.
Thank you, Justice. We have another question from the chat. What advice do you have for current law students that you wish you had when you were in law school?
I often think about the way people use that third year of law school. I really enjoyed the third year of law school. It gets a bad rap. People generally say that law school should just be 2 years long and get an internship. And I think there's a lot of value in getting out into the world and getting practice. But as long as law school is 3 years long, I tell law students to make full use of it by learning as much as you can in things that you probably won't have a chance to touch in your professional life. So for example, if you have time to pick up a language in the third year of law school. I struggled later in my career to pick up Portuguese because it became important to my practice. And it was so hard compared to what would have been a very easy semester in law school to just sort of add on a language when I had the chance. If you don't think you're ever going to practice family law, take a family law course. If you don't think you're ever going to practice immigration law, take an immigration course. Because what you'll find is that later in your career, you may have an opportunity to advance the rule of law in the life of a person and to have a real discernible impact in someone's life by picking up something that is slightly outside your comfort zone, slightly outside where you're going to spend your working life. And so I encourage you to try to do that and make the most of the privilege you have when you're getting a legal education, because it is a real privilege, often a very expensive one. That you may spend many years, as I did, working to pay off the debt that you're incurring to get it. And in order to have fulfillment during that time, it's good to be able to help people. So learn some things that may not be central to how you pay the bills, because it might help you help someone.
I think we're almost out of time, but we have one last question. What can the court do? What has the court yet to do to use emerging technology in order to further accessibility, transparency, and accountability?
Well, I think this last year has forced every single judge on this Zoom call to learn first what a Zoom call is, and second, to sort of accelerate the pace of using technology where we can to make a difference. I think there are some disputes that we got used to resolving in person that can very efficiently be handled using technology in new ways, whether those are scheduling matters or discovery disputes. And I think that this technology has demonstrated itself to be pretty robust in dealing with things when appearing in person is not possible. But there's so many other parts of our profession that are going to see tremendous change because of the availability of new technologies. I'm thinking of things like AI and how it can be utilized by pro se litigants to autocomplete forms and get started with engaging with a county court case, for example. I think we'll see a lot of that during the next few years. And the good news is our court remains as committed to using these technologies to improve access to justice as we've ever been. And I think it's a very exciting time to be a lawyer, because I think increasingly we have tools to take out of the practice the things that nobody likes, the things that make the legal system seem inaccessible, the waste of time and resources. There are dangers that we have to be careful with, because of course, I think technology involves reaching into someone's living room or bedroom sometimes if they're conducting themselves in court via Zoom. And so there are privacy concerns, big and small, when technology is involved. But I think by being careful and solicitous, but mindful of the benefits of technology, our judges and our litigants stand to gain a lot.
Thank you, Justice. That's it for our questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. On
Thank
behalf
you.
of myself, Judge Stein, the judges at the North Dade Justice Center, we thank you, Justice Coryell, for your words of wisdom, insights as to Justice Kogan's life work. I found that to be so interesting and so inspiring for all of us. And we wish you continued success on the Supreme Court. Thank you for being our featured speaker today. Thank you to our wonderful mayor, Enid Wiseman. We also thank Judge Safey and Chief Judge Soto. So we look forward to seeing you all next year. Thank you so much.
And we'd also like to again thank Commissioner Sally Hayman and our incomparable Elaine Adler. Thank you to our meeting sponsor, Professional Bank, and all of our participating sponsors, the 11 bar associations and their presidents, the North Dade Bar and their student essay contest, and our many distinguished guests and everyone who's joined us for this event. Thank you all for being here and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.